Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips, and tonight's post-game stream, we're going to be reacting to game number 50 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, losing here tonight to the Ottawa Senators 5-3, bringing them to 26-16-8 on the season. But guys, I see that you guys are all fired up in the chat. I see a lot of people watching right now. A lot of people were waiting, so I appreciate that. If you haven't already, hit that like button here on the stream. Subscribe here to the channel. I got to get that out of the way before we get things rocking here as well, because I'm about to go on a rant and you guys will hear it. We'll get into all the things that happened in the game. We'll get into what led to this loss tonight, what things might need to change, what things were okay, all that kind of stuff. And if you want to call into the show here, you want to give your thoughts on what happened, you want to give your opinions on what should be done moving forward or what we watched here tonight, feel free to shoot me a message, whether it's on Discord or on Twitter at Zack Phil, ZackPhill, or if it's on Instagram at Zack Phillips, ZackPhillips_. You send me a message. I'll find a way to get the link over to you. I want to take some calls here tonight. I want to see where people are at, how people feel about what went on with this Leafs team and what went on with this game here tonight, leading to this loss to the Sens, the last game against the Ottawa Senators of this regular season. But before we can get into that quickly here, we do have a super chat from Maxentius Decimus. Max, super chats. Thank you, as always. I appreciate it. I don't know if Max is trying to stir things up, get me going here, get the chat going. I don't know what the mission was. I respect Max. I appreciate the commentary. I appreciate the super chat. Max says, how angry are you to lose 3 out of 4 to the Sens? Oh, Max, don't worry. We'll get to it throughout the stream here tonight. But there's one thing I need to get to start this stream. There's one thing I need to cover before we can get into all the other minute details about the third line left winger, or whether or not Ryan Reaves played too many minutes, or what your thoughts are on Martin Jones being here. There's something I need to get off of my chest because it was driving me absolutely insane, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with people in the chat, because this is something that might be fairly divisive. This is something that fans of the Leafs might be on either side of. This is something that fans outside of the Leafs organization might be on either side of. Just hockey fans in general. I'm going to tell you something very honestly, and I was losing my mind listening to the two goobers on the broadcast tonight give their opinions on what was going on after it took place, and that was that Morgan Rielly had every single right to do what he did to Ridley Gregg, and I am thankful as a fan of the Leafs that he actually responded. I am thankful as someone who has watched this lifeless, sad team with no character, no guts, and no balls for 7 consecutive seasons. I'm thankful that somebody out on the ice finally said, fuck this, we're not dealing with it. Someone out there finally said, this is enough. I'm going to respond. I'm going to take it to that guy, because you know what? That's not acceptable. You don't skate down the ice and fire a slap shot in the net. Even if you're on the other side, where you sit there and you think, okay, he can do whatever he wants. That's fine. You think he can do that? From a Leafs perspective, he is in the right to respond. Whether you think he should have cross-checked him in the head or not is fine. We can have that debate separately. That being said, going down after him and hitting the guy and not just giving him a little push and giving him a little shove and saying you can't do that, that is what every single person who watches this team year in and year out has been waiting for. I watched Morgan Rielly turn that corner after Ridley Gregg took that slap shot, and me, myself, knowing if I was on the ice, would have chased that guy into the corner and hit him. And I'm sitting there watching Rielly thinking, what is going to happen? Is anyone out here going to go and respond to the guy? Is anyone even going to get in his face? And to see him go and do that, thank God, because someone out there showed some kind of life. Someone out there not only showed some kind of frustration from losing the game, having things play out the way that it did, but on top of that, that is pride in your own personal game, and that is pride in the crest that is on your sweater. That is pride in playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because he said, you don't disrespect us like that, we are going to do something to you. Again, Whether the way he handled it in terms of hitting him in the head is acceptable to you or not, fine. We can have that discussion separately. I'm not really ready to go there myself at this point in time because I was at least thankful that that situation took place. But then to have to hear these guys on the broadcast talking about the idea of, and I think that this is where things get out of control when you're talking about this team and this big picture of what can happen. People say, oh, you don't want Mitch Marner sitting on the bench and missing a power play for game 46 of the regular season because then you're not gonna score and you might lose game 46. Who cares? Morgan Rielly, you don't want him doing that because he might get suspended. Who cares? There is nobody on this team who has had that kind of life or that kind of energy on this organization that actually means anything. And I'm not trying to disparage guys who have come here in the past and being guys who stick up for other players who are third and fourth line players or fifth and sixth defensemen. But realistically, in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the core of this team, there is not one guy that we've really seen that from, other than really Morgan Rielly in the playoffs when he goes out there and he gets fired up and he responds and he gets in the fight or whatever against Tampa and he's in the corner going at guys. But for the regular season, you can afford to lose a guy. You can afford to lose a guy for 2, 3, 4 games if it gets to that point because he sent a message at the end of the game saying you don't fucking disrespect us. That is no longer acceptable against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's something that needs to be adopted by the rest of the team. Now, whatever we think about the way that this team plays in general, what I think about how they've played throughout the course of this season and kind of just being an average team, whatever. That's what we'll get into through the remainder of the show. But I needed to get that off my chest here because after it happened, I sat there thinking, thank God he did that. I've got a couple other people texting me saying, thank God Morgan Rielly did that. That's the best thing I've seen out of him or any core player on this team in 8 years. And then I'm listening to those jabronis on the broadcast saying, oh, Morgan Rielly's got to be careful about the suspension. Who cares about the suspension? Who cares? Who cares? That's the last time you play this Sens team this season. They've kind of owned you all year long. They're a bottom feeder team in this league right now, and they are disrespecting you at the end of the game like that. That's fine. You're going to win the game. You're going to get the empty net. You're going to finish this one off and walk off into the sunset. That's fine. The slap shot in the empty net is absurd. And finally, someone says, not happening, we're going to do this. And then I have to listen to those guys saying, what about his suspension? What if he misses 3 games, 4 games, 5 games? Who the fuck cares? Who cares? Someone sent a message. All right. I had to get that off my chest. That was driving me insane. The way that I just had to listen to that broadcast end, watch that game come to a conclusion, see what happened out there, and think there was realistically anybody in the world who could sit there and watch that and think, oh, what about a suspension? Fuck your suspension. Sorry. Family-friendly program. Let's get back to it. I had to get that off my chest. We got 250 people watching right now. 1/5 of the people watching have hit the like button. Please hit that like button here on the stream. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get things rocking. I appreciate everyone who's watching right now. I appreciate everyone who's in this chat. But yeah, I just had to get that out there. Like the reality is that you need to have this response. You need people to react to things and stick up for your team and have some passion and some pride for the logo on the front of the chest, because the way that we watch this team, the way that things feel when you watch them, it feels like it's an individual game. You're out there to get your cookies. Everyone's out there to score their goals. Everyone's out there to get their points on the board, set personal records, all that kind of stuff. That's great. I'm happy to see that as well. I'm happy to watch these things happen. You don't think for me as a Leafs fan, it's not incredibly cool to watch Austin Matthews win 2 Rocket Richards, score 60 goals, potentially score 70 plus this season? Those things are incredible. I love watching those. But the reality of this team is that there's a bigger picture that's way more important right now in terms of what they're going to do in the grand scheme. Or is this a team that can actually win? Is this a team that can take it up a notch and go to the next step? This is a team that in the past, you don't see them do the things that Morgan Rielly did there tonight. Again, it's the idea of sticking up for yourselves and your team and the logo on the front. If you have a guy like Morgan Rielly out there doing it, you have a guy out there like Morgan Rielly sending messages and saying, we're taking no prisoners. That's the important thing that can actually lead you to being in a position of like, yeah, we actually can get over the hump. Now, this one single incident might not be the one to do it, but you need more buy-in now. That can be the tip. That's the first domino to fall, but someone had to do it. You hope that at some point it's Matthews jumping in, it's Nylander, Marner, Tavares, whatever. But that being said, you needed someone to do it, and I'm happy that the first domino was Morgan Rielly doing that here tonight because it had to happen. This is also, by the way, this is one of those ones where if he doesn't respond, by the way, if he doesn't go out there and react to what happened, you know what happens tomorrow? Every single coach around the league knows you can do whatever the hell you want to that team. Every single player around the league knows you can do whatever the hell you want to that team. They already knew it. They already thought that coming into here. Then you see someone go out there and try to embarrass you like that and no response. That's the kind of thing that all of a sudden everyone around looks at and says, soft-ass team, soft-ass organization. That's how this goes. Media members tomorrow morning wake up and say they don't have jam. I come on this show after and I say they don't have jam. Credit to Morgan Rielly for doing that here tonight. And you know what? Maybe a hot take, maybe not. I feel like some people are kind of in a maybe a similar boat here, so we can discuss this here as well. You guys let me know in the chat your thoughts. I see all the super chats there as well, by the way. I'm going to get to them here. I just didn't want to cut off in this rant that's been going on right now. But the other thing here, when John Tavares was first awarded the captaincy, I said, okay, fine. The person I thought it should have been was Austin Matthews. He's the young guy coming up. This is going to be his team. He's going to take this over. He's the top scorer. He's the guy. He's the number one centerman, blah, blah, blah. He's the one who should have got it. That was kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, but I can be okay with JT taking it. As things have progressed since John Tavares has been here with this Maple Leafs team, as things have continued to get to more controversial amongst Leafs fans about how you handle this organization, who stays, who goes, do you keep guys, do you get rid of guys, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. There's one thing that I've noticed that happens during the playoffs and happens in the regular season and how they handle themselves when things matter the most. And on top of that, how they handle themselves in the media and amongst the fans and in the community. I think Morgan Rielly is the captain of this team. The C on the jersey is obviously just a piece of fabric that gets sewn on, and it doesn't define whether or not you can be or should be a leader in the room. I would imagine that Morgan Rielly is a leader in that room anyways. I imagine he's a guy that is looked up to. He's the longest tenured Leaf on this team. He's been here for a long time. This is a player that guys obviously gravitate towards. That being said, I think he's the one who should be wearing the C on his jersey. I don't think you're going to see a switch happening here anytime soon. Between those guys, I think if there is a switch, it would be to Matthews. He'd probably be the one to take it. But genuinely, I think Morgan Rielly is the captain of this team. I think that John Tavares is an incredible leader amongst the room. There's obviously a reason that when he was with the Islanders, he got the C. There's a reason that when he's with Toronto, he gets the C. Like, we aren't in the room. We aren't privy to those conversations. We're not privy to how he handles things behind the scenes. But Morgan Rielly's the leader of this team, publicly facing. He just is. I think Morgan Rielly retroactively should have been the one to get the C. That's where I'm at. Few super chats. I did see everyone. I wasn't ignoring them. I apologize. Had to get that out of the way. Continue to like the stream, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys very much for all the support. But first and foremost, we hit 50 likes. For those of you who are new, for those of you who haven't seen the stream before, don't know what happens, or haven't been here when we've hit 50 likes before, at every set of 50, 100, 150, we hit smelling salts. So you guys keep hitting the like. The longer we stay, the longer we go, the more smelling salts that get done. Like, it's as simple as that. It's simple as that. You guys keep going. We get the smelling salts out. Thank you for hitting 50 likes. I appreciate the support. Let's get it. All right. There you go. There's the first 50. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. Oh. All right. Whew. Okay. Let's get to the super chats. I don't want to miss these. First and foremost, Max. Max said, how angry are you to lose 3 out of 4 to the Sens? Honestly, pissed off. That's a rivalry. That's a head-to-head that you should be winning against this team fairly easily. They're a bottom team in the league. You're a team that's supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender. You're a team that's supposed to be going over the top, being able to compete for Stanley Cups year in, year out. The way that this team plays during the regular season, it's not a matter of are you winning games, are you losing games? It's how you compete in those games. It's the level of compete at this point that I'm looking for. I don't give a shit whether they win 82 games or if they win 45 and they barely make it into the playoffs. The point for me that I'm looking for out of this team now, because of 7 years of what we've seen out of them, is how do you play? How do you compete? Do you show up? Do you fight back? Do you allow the other team back into the game? This against the Sens all season long, and what we see against the Habs as well, has been a prime example of this team just not rising to the moment and having situational awareness of how things matter. I don't give a fuck that the Habs are tanking. I don't give a fuck that the Sens are in 28th. I don't care. I truly do not care. You show up against these teams and you put your foot on their neck and you don't take it off until the last buzzer has gone and they say, get the hell out of here and go back to Toronto with your 5-0 win. Like, you show up, and I'm not saying it's that easy to do. I'm saying that's how you show up to compete. You show up at the beginning, you're ready to take it to them, and from the moment the puck is dropped until the final buzzer goes, you fight your ass off. And then you go home, you take your 2 points, you turn around, and you flip the bird to the city of Ottawa. I just don't understand the lack of compete. I don't care that these guys are lower in the standings. Now, the other part of this here is, yeah, okay, this is something you can expect out of this team because they play poorly against shitty teams. Get rid of it. Stop doing that. Figure out a way to no longer have a level of play that just falls off when you're in these games. Like, why do you have to be the team to do that? Why is it always, oh, the Avs are playing the Ducks, they'll beat them. The Oilers are playing the Ducks, they'll beat them. You look at these other teams that we consider contenders, they go play these bottom feeder teams, and it's like, they'll beat them. And then if they lose, you go, holy shit, I can't believe that happened. Yet when the Leafs roll in to play the Habs, the Sens, the Ducks, the Sharks, it's like, well, they could lose this one tonight. And yeah, you know what? On any given night, any team in the NHL can lose. That's how hockey works. That's how the variance in this sport that we all love so much, that's how this works. That being said, this feels like the only team in the NHL that's a contender, air quotes, contender on that one, that we look at every single night against these bottom teams, and you say, who knows if they'll get up for it or not. There's a good chance they lose this game. Why the Leafs? Why do they have to be the team that has this happen? Why do they have to be the team that conducts themselves this way, where you could honestly go into every single game and say, you know what, tonight's a night that you could probably lose, or you will probably lose. That has to stop. It has to stop. And this season series against the Sens, how we perform against the Habs, these other teams that are legitimate rivalries and matter to the fans, you know what? They should start to matter. Tim Manto, that was a pretty funny comment. They should start to matter to the people that are in that room. Because you know what? The rivalries matter. Beating the Sens, it matters. That building, it's half full of Leafs fans. They drove 4 hours to Ottawa to pay to watch that Leafs team play. The drive to Montreal to pay to watch that Leafs team play. Because they have to spend their hard-earned money. They have to spend their time, travel with their families, book hotels, book flights, whatever it is, to watch this team play. And for you to be a contending team who shows up on these nights and just isn't there all the time, sad. Not necessarily saying that's what happened here tonight, but that's more just a general statement on how this organization has operated and continues to operate. That's the reason that in year 7, I started to kind of say, I don't know about this team. And then in year 8 now, with these guys, I'm sitting here genuinely saying, I don't have the faith until they actually turn it around and prove to me. Because before I gave them the benefit of the doubt. Not anymore. Not anymore. They don't get that anymore. Because now they've proven to me that they are a gutless, scared team that does not show up, does not dig in, and does not care. You got to prove to me now. You got to prove to me. Another super chat here. Jetski with the super chat. Jetski, appreciate it. Jetski just said, preach, my man. Thank you. I'm glad you guys agree. I mean, I see some people that disagreed. I also see some questions about, like, why did Rielly do the cross check? Why didn't he just fight? Fair enough. I mean, look, I never want anybody, I'm never going to advocate for anybody to injure another player. I don't ever think that that's the right response or right way to handle things at all. Now, that with that in mind, that preface being set in place, what I would say kind of about the Rielly situation is I don't think Ridley Gregg is going to turn around and willingly fight you there. And if you go over and try to get the guy and you try to fight him and you grab him and tussle a little bit, you're not going to end up in a position where he's going to fight or he's going to be a willing combatant. So then you're kind of just going to go back and forth shaking each other and nothing really happens. Cross-checking the guy in the head, probably not the right way to go about it. Again, I've said that a few times during this tonight. I will continue to say that as we go along, and the more people ask about it, 100%, I get it. That being said, I think that, as Tim kind of saying, heat of the moment, definitely heat of the moment. He looked at the guy and just said, fuck you, dude. You can't do that. Goes after him. Does that. Again, don't condone cross-check to the head at all. What I'm on the other side of here and saying is the right thing to do, and I don't want to get radioed in all of this, because 100%, it's the wrong thing to cross-check the guy in the head. It's the wrong thing. There's zero doubt in my mind that cross-checking a guy in the head is the wrong response. The fact is, this is a team that never gives a response, and to finally see it, thank God. You know, like, that's where I'm at as a Leafs fan. Thank God there was a response. That's all it is. And as Don says, the clown will think twice about taking a slap shot at an open net. He will. The next time he goes down on an empty net, you think he's just going to fire off a slap shot? He probably thinks in his mind, I'm going to go down and I'm going to take this slap shot and nothing's going to happen to me because we're playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mo just said wrong. Wrong. You might lose some teeth here, buddy. CD Corn, the man himself. I appreciate you, CD. Thank you for the super chat here. CD says, also CD, I didn't get a soup check here. I guess maybe this is the soup check, but CD says, spoons up for Morgan Rielly. Love the spice. Spoons up. I love the response. Like, I just love the fact that there was a response. I'm sorry, we're 25 minutes in. We barely talked about the game. It's mostly been about that reaction at the end, but that to me is the biggest takeaway here is, like, this game was not that great. The response that you had kind of during game was not that great. Martin Jones was not that great. The fact that you had Morgan Rielly go out there and do that, again, the actual specific action, not that great. But the fact that he did have any response at all, I'm happy about, because no one else does. No one else on this team does. Denver, can I call in? Yes, Denver. Message on Discord if you have there. If you have Twitter as well for anyone else. You can message me on Twitter at Zack Phil, ZackPhill. You can send me a message on there. And if you have Instagram, if that works better, at Zack Phillips, ZackPhillips_. That's the way you can get a hold of me, and I'll send you guys a link for you to call in and give your thoughts. I'm going to continue to try to read the chat here, guys. You guys are buzzing. I appreciate that. Full transparency for me here. The more the chat buzzes, I try to pick and choose things that come out into the chat, things that I can talk about. But as you guys are ripping away, it gets a little bit more difficult. So I'm not I'm not saying I'll only read comments if you super chat. What I am saying is it becomes easier for me to read them when they do, and I prioritize those. That's all. But I appreciate everyone in the chat, and I will continue to try to read those and answer your questions. We got another super chat here. This super chat is from Max, and Max also just threw another comment in the chat. So Max, thank you very much, but I might as well hit two birds with one stone. Max saying sniff salt. You need to sniff more salt. I do. Max also fired a super chat. Thank you, Max. 315 people watching, 103 likes. Thank you to everyone who's liked the stream, but that also means that 2/3 of you watching can also hit that like button. So please hit that like button if you're watching. Let's at least get to 150 here. Smelling salts at 100. Smelling salts again at 150. Why not? Let's get to 200 tonight. Why not us? Let's get to 200. I want to hit 200 subscribers. Or I want to hit 200 likes here. I want to hit 2,000 subscribers. Please hit that like button, subscribe. Guys, 100 likes. Thank you very much. Smelling salts. All right. Continue on. Max, super chat. Thank you. Why do Leafs always give up clown goals? On their first one, Rielly and Marner are falling over, and I just knew we'd get scored on. Max, this is a good question. It's something that I was going to kind of address here with this team, and it's something that I see out of them in the last couple of games. People get mad at me saying like, oh, they didn't play that bad tonight, blah, blah, blah. And for the most part, in a lot of these situations, I don't disagree. I talk to a lot of smart people who do breakdowns and do analytics and do some of the underlying numbers for what goes on around not just the Leafs, but the NHL and some of these metrics that go into it. And a lot of people sit there and tell me, well, Zach, they're not that bad defensively. You're missing some pieces. My guy Moretto, we talk about it a lot. There's underlying metrics that are there. One thing that myself, Moretto, and I think a lot of people in the chat kind of get to the same page about that kind of works as well is the idea that, okay, maybe your metrics are there, but you're still missing that horse, right? Like you're missing that piece that takes you over the top. Okay. That aside, let's put that aside and let's get into the actual clown goals part of this that Max is talking about and where we get into with issues with this team. Think back to the Islanders game Monday night. Do you think that, Tim, thank you. I'm fine with other fans of other teams being in here. All I'll say, just don't be an ass. That's it. That's all I'll say. I'm happy to be here, happy to hear other opinions, happy to see other people's sides. You're saying go Sens, fine with me. Just don't be an ass to people in the chat. That's all. Anyways, continuing on. What I'm kind of looking at with this team is, do I think that the Leafs played a bad game against the Islanders the other night? No. Do I think the Leafs deserve to win? I don't necessarily know that deserve is the right word, but I wouldn't also put that on the Islanders and say the Islanders deserve to win. It probably at the end of the day comes down to a coin flip game. If you want to look to the deserve to win a meter, you want to look to some of the expected goals, yeah, the Leafs had the edge. But when you look at the actual game of hockey that was played before our eyes, I don't think necessarily one team deserved anything more than the other. I don't think one team walked away saying we should have won that game. The bounces didn't go our way. What we go with here with this Leafs team and what happens is, to Max's point, why do the Leafs give up clown goals? Well, the Leafs have these moments, and I can't necessarily say this is 100% why this happens. I'm obviously not in the room. If I could be at that level of playing hockey, I would not be sitting here talking to you guys. I'd be out on the ice, skating around, hopefully making a couple $1 million. But unfortunately, it just didn't quite work out for me. Nonetheless, the way I see it is that this Leafs team gets lackadaisical. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the structure that's being put in place, the systems that are being put in place, or the players that are on this roster. It doesn't necessarily have to do with one specific thing in particular, but I think in a combination of all of it, there's probably holes in each part of their game. There are pieces missing on this roster, 100%. There are probably structural issues, 100%. I think that those are fair things to say. I would also say that one of the things that seems to be missing is the level of accountability. And I'm not making this entirely a coach problem, because there is buy-in that needs to happen from the guys in the room, the guys on the ice, whatever. But there's a combination here between the players to the coach that take X's and O's and you can almost throw them aside. Sheldon Keefe implements system A. He could implement any system in the world, by the way, is where I'm getting at with this. Sheldon Keefe needs to effectively enforce the message that he's trying to deliver to this team. That's probably step number one. Now, step number two of all of this is going to also now put the blame onto the players. I mentioned the players, the actual physical roster, yeah, there's probably holes. Maybe the structure has holes, the system has holes, whatever. But you also look at, number one, that layer in between of what's the roster, the system, the structure, whatever. And then you look at the other layer, and that's the players, and how those things are also all kind of wrapped together to give you the product that you see on the ice every single night. Well, now what you have is this, what feels like a distrust, or a disconnect is maybe the better word, between the coach and the message he's implementing and the players and how they're receiving it. It feels like there's a lack of accountability from the top of the coach saying, you're going to play this way, you're going to do these systems, you're going to do this, and you're not going to fucking fall asleep on a pass in the neutral zone that's going to turn around and go back the other way. That's part of it. Now then it's on the players to say, okay, we're going to listen to you, we're going to buy in, we're going to play this system the way that you want it to be played. But then what happens is when they don't do that, there's no consequence. There's no turning around and saying, oh, you fumble fucked the puck in the neutral zone. You're not paying attention to your assignment. You lost your guy in the corner. You gave up a bad break out front. You're going to miss shifts. You're going to be reprimanded, scolded, whatever it's going to take for these guys to get the message to say, I can't do that again. Because this Leafs team has now had 7 years of building to a point where they make these stupid brain dead mistakes, where it's not that they're bad players or that they're not defensively aware. It's just that they have moments in time where they say, I'm above this, whatever. And it feels like, at least from an eye test watching these guys, they just fall asleep at times. They fall asleep at the wheel. And rather than there being a little side barrier on the side of the road that vibrates when your wheels hit it to try to wake you back up and say, get the fuck back in the lane, they just kind of like drift all the way off and then drift all the way back across. And then all of a sudden they're like, you're back in the game again. And there's nobody there telling them, you can't do that. There's nobody there to shove them back into the guideline. They just like somehow don't hit it. And then somehow don't hit it. No one's there saying, wake the hell up. These guys, it's not that they're a bad team. It's not that they are poorly constructed. It's not that they have a shitty system. There is just broken telephone pieces from one area of this organization to the next, to the next, to the next. There just is. And by the time it gets to the product that goes on the ice, that's when we start to see these broken down, messed up plays where all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's like breakaway going the other way. And you're sitting there going, holy we were on a 3-on-0 going the other way. We had an odd man rush through the neutral zone. And next thing you know, it's an odd man rush the other way. It's a 3-on-1. It's a 2-on-0, whatever. There are just these broken down moments that happen within this team in their games that lead to these. And then the problem is that you get into these games where you look at them and say, you know what? They actually played like shit tonight. Max, to your point where you're saying these clown goals, those just get amplified. Where we walk away at the end and say, they played like shit, they didn't care tonight, they didn't show up from the start, they didn't finish out the game, whatever. And now all these other things that we're talking about, they become a million times worse. These are habits that are developed and implemented in their game throughout the course of the season that all of a sudden just come out in these games where they're playing well and you go, whoa, what happened there? The game against the Islanders. Whoa, TJ Brody, shit past Morgan Rielly where you handcuff him, put him in a bad spot, and then follow it up with Morgan Rielly loses inside positioning. Look at the game here tonight. John Tavares. How are you losing net front positioning like that to Shane Pinto? How are you, as the captain of this team, the guy who's supposed to be leading the charge, just not fighting for space in front of your own net, by the way, not the other team's net, your own net? How are you not battling for positioning? How are you not getting physical with that guy and saying, we are going to take over this front of this net and not let you get a free spot at our goaltender in front to screen, to tip the puck, and then it ends up in the back of the net? It's just a lazy moment. It's just a lazy moment. That's what this team kind of does. That's where they get to. Max, thanks for the super chat. 12 more likes to 150. I say we do it. We got 330 people watching. No reason we can't get to 150 likes right now. There's just no reason. Hit that like button. More super chats here. Let's get to these. Jeff McKay, appreciate the super chat, Jeff. Thank you very much. As always, Jeff says, not a great game, bad defense all around. Jeff, kind of the only point I would push out back on there is like, I don't think that this was bad defense all around. I think that there was some bad moments of defense, but that's who this team is. They're just not a consistently good defensive team. They're mostly good. They're good for probably 40, 50 minutes of a game. They're good for, like some real high quality plays, some real high quality breakups, coming back on 2-on-1, Simone Benoit making diving saves, blocking shots, whatever. But then they just have, as I kind of just mentioned, these stupid moments where you sit there and say, aren't you an NHL player? Don't you make $13 fucking million? And then you just sit there on the couch scratching your head wondering how the hell someone like that making $11 million and wearing a C on their chest is all of a sudden falling asleep and losing battles. These are the kind of moments that happen with this team why I come to the conclusion when we come on here after and we're winning games and people are like, oh, we're still in a playoff spot. You got Matthews. He's going to score 70. Why are you so negative about this team? It's because they have moments like that where they just shut down, shut off their brains and say, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. We'll see you in the game against St. Louis. That's when we'll come back. That's when we'll figure things out. That's not acceptable. That's not how Stanley Cup contending teams work. It's just not. So to take nights off, to take games off, to take these moments off, you can't do it. You can't do it and expect yourself to be in a position where you're going to actually win. You can't expect yourself to get to a spot where you can just lollygag throughout the course of a season, get to the playoffs and say, we'll turn it on now. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. This team is not in a position to go far in the playoffs with the way that they play. This team is not in a position to go far in the playoffs or put up any type of fight with this lack of intensity, this lack of character, this lack of balls. I don't really think that this is a bad defensive team or bad defensively all around. I think they turn their brains off. And I think it leads to these egregious goals. And then I think that they kind of just shut down. And they say, yeah, you know what? We're out of it. We're down a goal. We're down 2 goals. We'll try to fight back with 4 minutes left in the third, but that's about all we got. And we'll show everyone that we fought back. We tried. We made it close. We made it a game. And outside of that, you're pretty much looking at this team being like, what else you got? All right, we got more super chats here. Also, 150 likes. You guys are some sick fucks. 150 likes. Let's get to 200. There's over 300 people watching right now. You guys are watching for what? For one reason. You're watching to watch me melt down about what the hell is going on the ice with this team. That's it. That's why you're here. Now you on top of that, you want extra pain. Hit the like button. Smelling salts. Every 50. We hit 150. Let's get to 200. No reason not to. Half the people, more than half the people, haven't liked it yet. No reason. Come on. Thank you for the likes. The Doom Cylinder. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Craig, we are melting down too, Zach. This is how we release the anger demons. Fair enough. I'm glad that I could be here to help you guys through all that. So, yeah, we're all in this together. Misery loves company, as they say, I think. All right. More super chats here. Let's continue to get to these. Good meltdown, 10 out of 10. I'm glad that I've gotten to a point in, I don't know if we want to call it a media career or whatever, but media career that we're at, that I figured out a way to melt down responsibly, somewhat responsibly, and you guys enjoy it. So thanks. I'm glad that we've gotten to that point. More super chats. Masset Actus, thank you for the super chat, Masset. Appreciate it. Masset says, let's face it, full rebuild is needed. Marner will walk. Entire decor needs to be rebuilt. Masset, I'm not too far off from you. I think full rebuild is an aggressive word. I think retool is probably the word that we're looking for here more than anything. Marner will walk. Look, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the Marner camp. What I can tell you is this. He's going to ask for all the goddamn money in the world so that he can wear his leopard print purple suits and his gator fucking slip-on shoes to the games. He's going to ask for every single dollar that he can possibly find so that he can recoup what he had on the wedding that he had to pay for where he was grittying down the aisle. All right, so he's going to be asking for all the money in the world. I can guarantee you that. He did it in his last negotiation. Why the hell would he not do it in this one? I don't necessarily think he's going to walk. I think he's going to come back to this team and try to negotiate. But I have a feeling that the way that this team is going to handle it from the other side might be a little bit more different than the way it went last time. Might not end up well for either side, truthfully. And the worst part about it is that he's going to be a UFA. How do you handle that? Potentially, you have to try to move him ahead of time if you know that he's not going to come back. He's got a no-move clause, so you're going to have to figure out a way around that. But you're going to have to deal with it. You are going to have to deal with that. I don't know that he walks, though. As for the rebuild, look, as what we're talking about with the decor needing to be rebuilt, I don't think that that's fully true. I think that when you kind of look at some of these guys, you're going to have Morgan Rielly here for a while. That's a good, solid piece to have. You're going to have to retool around, though. Simone Benoit can stay. Jake McCabe can stay. Connor Timmins, he can be an extra piece. Timothy Liljegren isn't that bad, but he just can't be overexposed, whether it's in minutes or in matchups, whatever. You need to find a niche for Timothy Liljegren to fit into if you want him to stay here. And part of the problem is the way that Sheldon Keefe utilizes him right now, I don't think you're getting any development out of him. So I think he's just here to play. He's just kind of part of this organization. He's part of the roster, and there's no real impact on a game on a nightly basis other than when he might have a negative one that really stands out to people. That's kind of where I'm at with Timothy Liljegren, but I think you can flip him around, and whether that's assets in terms of picks that you can get back, and then you use the picks to go around and get somebody else, or if you use that to draft somebody, or if you use that actual space that you get in salary, then maybe you can go out and find somebody in free agency. I don't think that it's a complete disaster on the defensive end, but you 100% need upgrades. TJ Brody, he's done. Mark Giordano, he's done. Outside of that, what are we talking about with the D? Like, we're pretty limited on that back end there, so I think you're going to have to do some more around that. As for up front on the forwards, you are in the same position that the Pittsburgh Penguins were in every single year that they were competing. You got high-end guys making a bunch of money, playing in your top six. Outside of that, Reduce, reuse, recycle, my friends, the triple R's. You just got to go through guys who could be on a lower salary cap, hop into those bottom 6 roles, hop into the first line left wing, second line left wing, whatever it is, go into those spots, be cheaper salaries, and be plug and play players that you could probably use for 1, 2, maybe 3 years, and then you move on from them. That's the Pittsburgh model. It worked for them. They won 3 Stanley Cups. That's what happened in Chicago when they were on that heater. That's what happened with the LA Kings when they went on theirs. That's how you have to kind of utilize that when you're going to pay a bunch of guys a lot more money. I don't necessarily think that that's a rebuild situation up front. I think retool probably a lot more accurate. Another super chat here. Michael, thank you for the super chat. Michael says, without a good goalie, it's hard to win. Imagine Florida-Boston goalies swap with ours. They will drop at least 15 points every good team from the back. I disagree, Michael. This is no longer a league where you need an elite goaltender. This is a league where you need an above-average goaltender who can be hot at the right time. I don't have too much else to say on it. I mean, just look at some prime examples of like Adin Hill, probably a really good goaltender. Is he elite? I don't think so, but he gets hot at the right time. Vegas wins the Stanley Cup. He was Vegas' 3rd goaltender to start last season. You had Robin Lehner go onto IR. He needed season-ending surgery. He's gone. You have Logan Thompson go in there. He's your number 1 guy. He's going to win the Calder, the Rookie of the Year, as a goaltender with Vegas, and all of a sudden he gets injured. Adin Hill hops in, and Adin Hill takes you to a Stanley Cup final. Now all of a sudden he's being talked about as that's the guy who's going to be the goalie for Team Canada. Like that's how these things work, where it's like it doesn't have to be Vasilevsky, Shesterkin, Sorokin, Ottinger, you name it, Bobrovsky. Outside of that, when you look at some of these guys, you need a good goaltender who gets hot at the right time and plays lights out. Jordan Binnington, lights out. Like, you don't need an elite goaltender anymore. But fair enough. I mean, you need your goaltenders to play better. You don't need an elite goaltender. You just don't. Another super chat here. Super chat from Andrea. Thanks for the super chats. Appreciate it. Appreciate the supports. I'm your biggest fan. Thank you. I think sometimes that one goes to my parents, my dad usually who's watching. Some of the people in the chat, Maxentius Decimus, pretty big fan, I would say. Appreciate you. Denver, Craig Harrison, Hurt Locker, Handshake Line. Donnie Does Dishes. Some of those guys are pretty big fans. So I don't want to disparage them. Don't want to disparage my dad. Don't want to disparage Ryan Kovart, who's in the chats a lot as well. But I do appreciate the support. Appreciate the super chat. Another super chat here. The Morning Star. The Morning Star. Thank you for the super chat. Morning Star says, this team is summed up by the quote from the Amazon doc. In quotes, we will show up when it matters. Someone forgot to tell them it always matters. The Morning Star, I appreciate the super chat. There's really not too much that I can add to that. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, this is kind of what I've been saying throughout the stream here tonight. This is what I was saying in previous streams. This is what I've been saying since the beginning of the season. Until this team realizes the importance of showing up every game and treating every game like it's the most important game ever, then I don't think that this team in particular is going to be able to get over the hump. I'm not necessarily saying you have to win every game. I'm not saying that you have to be in a position where you show up every night and set an NHL record for wins in a season. That's not realistic. Not every game do you show up, do you have your A+ game. But the problem with this Leafs team and what they do and how they conduct themselves and how they play is that they don't have anything outside of their AA+ game. They get to that level, they show up, they dominate some team, and then outside of that, they go and play like a C game. And they just like, well, whatever, we don't care, like it's about the playoffs. No. That's the fans' perspective now, because we watched you for 7 years. I mean, I guess 7th year you won a round, but 6 years, lose in the first round every single year. 7th year, you win in the first round, you go to the second round, and you win one game. Now, to me, I'm watching 82 games is a long way to get through. 82 games is a lot to watch for this team. It's a lot to watch when you know that on a nightly basis, they just don't care. And I'm watching a guy make $11 million, $13 million, $12 million, $10.93 million, and these guys don't give a fuck. So I'm sitting at home watching this, and other than the fact that I care about you guys in the stream, I care about doing the stream, and I care about talking about this team, why the hell would I personally care about what the hell goes on the ice? Why would I care? Why would I care when the guys making double-digit millions of dollars don't care? They go out there and they just show up. They're there just to be there. They're there so they don't get fined. And they walk through the game and they walk off the ice and they say, whatever. It is what it is. Move on to the game on Tuesday. Doesn't cut it for me anymore, guys. Because you show up every year and you say, we'll get it when it matters, and then you don't fucking show up when it matters. Maybe change things up. Maybe show up in the regular season. Definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and again and expecting a different result. You show up every season for 8 years and you say, we'll show up in the playoffs. That's when it matters. And then you fucking lose in the playoffs. At what point do you turn it around and say, you know what? We'll show up in the regular season too. Getting a little deep on that. Getting a little too far in. Start to turn it around. Start to play different. I don't know. Just a thought. Just a thought. Just a thought. Another super chat here. Chat is buzzing still. Thank you guys. 20 likes away from another Smelling Salts. Why not us? Why not hit it? Why not get to 200 here tonight? I think that would be the most that we have on a single stream while live. I know you guys hit it after the fact, but while live, I do appreciate all the support of everyone who's watching, who subscribes. Still trying to get to 2,500 subscribers. Trying to get some things rocking here, so please hit that subscribe button, like the channel, continue to build this one up. But we do have another super chat here. Maxentius Decimus. Max, thank you. Max just says, Brody, sad face. Look, I've read a lot of stuff online about what this team does, how you're going to move forward from this. And one of the problems that this team has when it comes to making a trade at the deadline and going for a big swing is there is a lot of cap space eaten up by guys that you just probably can't move on from. Or guys that you might be able to move on from, but it's going to cost you something to shed that salary. Patrick Marleau was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes to get rid of his contract, signed by Lou Lamoriello, by the way. Patrick Marleau was signed to a probably far too expensive contract for where he was at in his career and the age that he was. And then the Leafs needed so desperately to get out of it, they traded their first round pick so that they could move back in the draft for the Hurricanes to take that. Do you know who the Carolina Hurricanes happened to draft with that pick? Because, by the way, this was the year that the Leafs lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets in the pre-playoff round. So technically, they didn't even make the playoffs that year. They lost in the play-in playoffs or play-in round or whatever you want to call it. The Leafs finally had some somewhat high-up pick relative to what they've had in years past. They had to trade it to the Carolina Hurricanes, who then went on and drafted Seth Jarvis, a guy who was almost voted into the All-Star game via fan vote, a guy who is a young player on a cheap contract, playing in the bottom six in Carolina, who is doing some pretty good damage as a young, up-and-coming player. The Leafs need to finally get themselves into a spot where they're not just getting rid of all this shit alongside good assets just for the sake of shedding this. That's why I feel like this is a year where TJ Brody, you just hang on to him. Unless some other team out there is like, we want him, we'll give you a bunch of shit, and you guys can hold on for like half half price or whatever if the Leafs are willing to retain. That's probably how you play this. You don't go and shed that guy and have to pay for some team to take him because you need to go and make another move. What are you going to do? Are you going to move on from that $5.5 million on the last year of his deal and you're going to get some other team to eat that salary? These are not advisable moves by this Leafs team. I don't think that they should be doing that. Our man saying it was Dubas who made the trade. It was Dubas who made the trade, but it was Lou who signed it. I still think you had to get out of it at that point in time, but it's like, think about, there's this butterfly effect of how things have taken place in this organization over the last little while that's not that good. It's just not that good. All right, another super chat. Keith Graham. Keith, thank you for the super chat. Keith didn't say anything. He just fired the super chat. I respect that anyways. Thank you. Another super chat as well. Jetski D23. Jetski, shout out to you. You've been pretty active in the chat here. I appreciate your support. I appreciate how much you've been in here. Look, again, there's 300 people watching. I only need 13 more to hit that 200 likes mark. I want to hit that before the end of the stream. 200. We can hit 200 before we finish this one off. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I appreciate all the support. 2,500. It's within range. We're close. Maybe I'll do something stupid for playoffs. So we did it before. I mean, like, the problem is that I told you guys the last time I was like, oh, yeah, we'll get a mullet if I get to the playoffs. And then, or when we get to the playoffs, if you guys hit a certain number. And then, like, it took 2 weeks for you to get us to the number, and there was like 800 subscribers. This is on the old channel. You guys just fired it up and got things going, and then I had to get the mullet for the playoffs, and then now I've just had a mullet for 2 years. So, like, I don't know, kind of a win-win. So maybe the next stupid thing that happens can be a win-win as well. Who knows? If you guys have ideas, send them in chat. Anyways, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. Thank you, guys. Super chat here from Jetski. I miss Muzzin. Jetski, you know what? I do too. I miss Muzzin as well. I miss what he brought. The other day, I'm going to be real honest with you guys, peek behind the curtain. A lot of times I'll go and just watch YouTube videos, highlights of things that happen with this team or things that are going on. Try to watch current stuff because I want to watch some of the details of things that happen. Game breakdowns, recaps, whatever. I came across I think it was satirical, but I came across a prime Jake Muzzin first with the Leafs compilation, and it was like his first 2 years or year and a half with this team. That guy was a menace. I love Jake Muzzin. I miss him too. Jetski, you're the man. Thank you. Appreciate the super chat. Dylan Thomas, happy to find Phillips on here, still making these Leafs post games way better. Did not pre-read that. Sorry. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, this is where I am. Thank you guys for the support. I'm glad people were able to find it. I know it's a little bit difficult. We built up the other one, but we're here. We're here now. I'm probably going to wrap this up here soon. Finish off. We're going to be back this week. We got a bunch of stuff going on for this Leafs team. Game Tuesday, game Thursday, game Saturday. I'm going to be live during the game on Thursday, but I'm going to be doing a watch-along for the Hammer Betting Network. I'll be on there with the Edgework YouTube channel. And, guys, I am in for a fucking shitstorm. You guys can find me there during the stream, during the game, and then you can find me after. This Thursday, I will be doing the one chip challenge while wearing a Montreal Canadiens jersey on air. As a Maple Leafs fan and someone who can deal with like heat, but has been told numerous times by people who are like well versed in heat that this one chip challenge is going to kill me, I am terrified. I am terrified of what's going to happen to my mouth and my body. It's going to be a scary thing. Thursday night, one chip challenge in a Habs jersey. Edgework YouTube channel. Go check that out after you finish here. Edgework YouTube channel. Might as well subscribe. I'm on there as well. Hosting morning shows, all that kind of stuff. You guys can just hear me talk all day. I don't know who wants to do that, but you can if you want to. Max, Zach helps me deal with the depression of being a Leafs fan. Well, I'm glad. This is I think therapy for, I guess I'm 25, but I assume most of us, you in the chat, middle-aged men. This is sports therapy for middle-aged men. Just listen to me freak the hell out for an hour now. I appreciate the support, though. Thank you. 2 more likes. Hit the like button. All right, let's get to our final 2 segments here before we wrap things up and get out of here for tonight. I hope everyone had a safe night, enjoyed the stream, enjoyed the game the best that you could. But one more like. Let's get to our final segments. First and foremost, let's get to our play of the game. Play of the game. You know what? Before I can even get into the play of the game, I think that this will lead into it. We hit 200 likes. That's the first time we've ever hit 200 likes here on this stream while live. All the likes have come in after. We've gotten some big numbers, and I appreciate you guys for that. This is the first time while live we've hit 200. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's get to smelling salts one final time. If you guys want to get it to 250, you can. You guys are some sickos. I appreciate that, but 200. Let's do it. Thank you. Yeah, spend games. Notice there's way more people after a loss than a win. Definitely therapy. Yeah, for sure. All right, here's mine. I'm a scumbag. I know it for sure. I'm going to do it anyways. My play of the game is Morgan Rielly going after Ridley Gregg. It's not because he cross-checked him in the head. Again, I still think that was not the way to handle it if a cross-check to the head. I will always disavow those. That's no dice. Can't be doing that. But finally, someone has a fucking pair of balls on this team and is willing to do something. Finally, 7 years of watching these guys, the core guys on this team, cower away and not be willing to be a part of that kind of mix. Not respond to people, not stick up for themselves, and not have pride for the name on the front of the jersey. And finally, Morgan Rielly goes out there and says, you're going to disrespect us. You're going to pull some bullshit fucking move like that, slap shot the puck in the empty net at the end of the game. Fuck you. That's not happening anymore. Morgan Rielly chases him down and cross-checks him. I don't know that this carries on. I don't know that this is something that goes through anybody else on the team. I don't know that this is something that they take forward and all of a sudden they all start playing with balls. Likely with this team, probably not, but we're going to find out. Yet, for me, that's my play of the game because it was a big guy on this team. It was someone who means a lot to this organization saying, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. You don't do that. You don't disrespect us. Fuck you. That's my thoughts on him responding. Again, Joe in the chat, other people in the chat say you don't cross-check in the head. Agreed. You don't cross-check in the head. But nobody on this team ever does shit. Nobody on this team ever does shit. So thank God. Couple honorable mentions. First and foremost, Matthew Knies scores his first goal in a long time. He's at the point where that was killing him. You guys in the chat are coming here every day saying, Knies can't score, Knies can't score. Put him on the third line. Put him in the Marlies. Goal and assist here tonight. Not only that, not only the stats on the sheet, he played pretty well. I'm pretty happy with what I saw out of Matthew Knies. On top of that, Max Domi, honorable mention. 2 goals. Only one of them counts. The other one partially kicked in, also offside, which, by the way, don't get me started on the offsides because it was offside, fair enough, got no problem with that. But that being said, reviewing this shit for 3 minutes on millimeters or inches offside, fuck off. Don't want to see that. That's bad for the game. Not just the Leafs, everybody. Bad for the game. Don't like it. That being said, Domi, great night from him. He was all around it. Morgan Rielly as well, all around it. Look at that first play. Max Domi scores, offside, kicked in, whatever. Rielly's the one who makes the play across. Later on, Rielly jumps in the zone, makes a great pinch along the wall, able to get the puck down deep, makes a nice through pass to John Tavares in the second period, gets an opportunity to score. Doesn't score, who cares? First period. Great opportunity. He was all over it. Nice, great night. Domi, great night. Morgan Rielly, great night. Happy with those guys. Honorable mentions to them. Let's get out of here with our final thing. You guys know it. I want to see yours in the chat, though. I want to see where you guys are at. Let's get our grades of the game.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Grades of the game. Look, I don't know. This one's a hard one for me to grade. Martin Jones, I don't think, was very good tonight. I don't think this was his fault, but I don't think he was very good. I think he could have been a whole lot better. So that's tough. I think that there was a too much of this game where it felt like they kind of just went missing and were just participants on the ice. That mostly happened in the second period. I think I'm probably going to come in at about a C, where it's like, I'm as a fan watching this one going, get the hell out of here, because you can feel that this one's going to be a loss. You can feel that this team is not energized. You can feel that they're not into it. You know the Sens are fired up. The Sens fans are fired up. I'm kind of just sitting there going, I want this thing to end. I want to get on a stream and talk to the chat, see how they're feeling. I'm at a C. I could be lower, but it's like there was some fight back. And on top of that, I think for me, I'm getting a little bit of a personal emotional bias mixed in where I'm like, I'm happy with Nyes and Domi and Matthews scoring 42 again. Like, these guys are dialed in. I think Mo had a great game. I think the way he responded at the end, I'm happy to see that out of him. Like, all this stuff, you know what? I'm at a C where it's just like, ugh, get me the hell out of here kind of game. It is what it is. That's going to be my breakdown for tonight's game. I appreciate you all for tuning in. I appreciate you all for liking the stream. 200 likes while we were on here live. I mean, come on. That's pretty sick. Thank you all for doing that. Thank you for liking, subscribing to the channel, continuing to help this thing grow. We are growing. We're getting noticed. I appreciate that. So thank you guys all for that. Let's keep this thing rocking. Keep hitting that like button. Keep hitting that subscribe button. That's going to do it for me here on tonight's stream. Game number 50 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, losing to the Ottawa Senators here 5-3, moving to 26, 16, and 8. Enjoy the Super Bowl tomorrow. Keep believing.